Thanks, Pam. As Pam mentioned, I'm going to be going over a few of the tools and features that you can use in LOLI Desktop and LOLI Online to incorporate links into your searches. The three main tools in LOLI Desktop that you can use would be LOLI Query, LOLI Query Grid, and LOLI Change Reports. Pam's already done a pretty good job this morning of going over the LOLI Query function as well as the default results from that tool. So I'm going to go over LOLI Query Grid. Functionality as far as entering cast numbers for LOLI Query Grid is the exact same as LOLI Query. The only difference is the default view of the results will be a grid view. So we're going to enter in the cast number for zinc and include our links. And I can see here that zinc is linked to three generic categories: zinc inorganic compounds, persistent bioaccumulative and toxic compounds, and zinc compounds. So for this example, we're just going to do the zinc generics only. As a reminder, when you're using LOLI Query or LOLI Query Grid, you have predefined filters available for you to use. The default, of course, is to go over all lists, as well as some of our predefined ones that come from the tree view from our other tool called LOLI Lists. You also have the ability to create your own. For this example, we'll go over the U.S. federal government in our search. The Query Grid tool is very useful when comparing data. So in this case, I can see that there's data present for a certain list for the exact cast number, as well as for the RR number, and vice versa in some cases here at the end, I believe. What this allows you to do is then export these results as an Excel spreadsheet type file or any spreadsheet type file, and you have the ability to export and print results from any of the tools to 4 different types of files. These would include rich text format, plain text, both openable in like a Word program. Comma-separated values would be your spreadsheet type files, and HTML would be able to be saved as a web-based file. I also wanted to point out, while going over some of the tools, that there are a lot of right-click menu options available throughout the results. So I can then send this cast number to LOLI Change Report or LOLI Findcast. I can export and print from this right-click menu option, and I can also choose to see links from this view as well. I can't then include them in the same query, but I would at least be able to tell if there were links present from a cast number. Next, we'll go over LOLI Change Reports. LOLI Change Reports allow you to track changes for a given cast number or set of cast numbers, a group of lists or specific list, as well as specific cast numbers on specific lists. So again, this is another very customizable tool in LOLI Desktop. So to enter in cast numbers, you would click on Choose Search Values. And again, this looks very familiar. It's the same form as you noticed in LOLI Query Grid and LOLI Query. And again, I would check the boxes for the linked categories that I would like to include. I then need to determine what time frame I want to specify. I can go back using LOLI Change Reports through a year's worth of history. So in this case, we're going to go back 2 quarters. So we're going to go back to the end of 2009. I then need to choose which type of report I would like to generate. I can choose to just see additions, just deletions, just changes, all of the above actions, and then I can also choose to include or exclude administrative changes. And those would be things such as chemical name changes, or if we were reformatting a data field but not changing the actual data content itself, things along those lines. I would then click Generate. And depending on how many cast numbers you've chosen to include and if you've chosen to include the entire database or not, I would not recommend running a change report on the entire database, as it will definitely time the program out. But you could certainly, as in this case that we're presenting here, run 3 cast numbers or RR numbers against the whole database over the past year. I would like to remind everybody that LOLI change reports are accessible when you have LOLI Desktop installed as the Enterprise Edition, meaning it's installed on a single server as opposed to each individual desktop. And we're almost completed here with generating the report. And when we do find the results, they will be in a tabbed view, so you can tab back and forth between the different types of changes, whether they be additions, deletions, or changes. So I can see here that in this case, the 3 items that I entered into LOLI change reports did not have any data value changes over the time period I specified. This is actually an important result to get because it alerts me to the fact that I do not have any data changes for any of the lists in LOLI, meaning no exposure limits changed, inventory status has not changed, etc. This allows me to see name changes and data key changes. And data keys are sometimes that force sortable column that you see when opening a list in LOLI List View. An example of a list that would have a data key would be the Japanese inventory. And it's just another column that allows you, as well as us internally, to sort that list based on that 4th column. I can then see additions. So these would be lists that Zinc or any of the generic categories that I included that they were added to. And it tells me the data as well as the name on the list, as well as the release quarter. So I can see what exact LOLI update CD this change would be incorporated on. These columns are sortable by clicking on the column heading, so I can sort this by cast number. And my generic categories would be listed below. I can sort this on list name, which I would probably find the most useful, because if you had a result for the same list for multiple cast numbers, they would sort out together. I can also see deletions. Again, important information, so I can see which lists Zinc and its related substances were deleted from. And those are the 3 main tools in LOLI Desktop that allow you to incorporate links into the search. Next, we'll go over LOLI Online. And for those of you that are using LOLI Online, you already know that it is a web-based product. So the features and tools are not as advanced as what you would find in LOLI Desktop, simply because it's a web-based product. So when I sign into LOLI Query, the first way I can view links is by running a search on a cast number. And I see the results in a tree view, very similar to the results I saw in LOLI Query when Pam was going over her examples. So I can click through the various results here to view information. But to find the related substances, I would click the Find Related link located at the bottom of the screen. And I can see here that on LOLI Online, Zinc is linked to these 5 categories. So you may be wondering, well, why was it only linked to 3 in LOLI Desktop? The reason for this is the LOLI Desktop version I was using was only updated to the April 1st, 2010 LOLI Update CD. As most of you know, a new one will be coming to you shortly for our July 1st release. So in the past quarter, it appears that the links team has added 2 more links from Zinc to other categories. I could then click on any of these RR numbers to generate a LOLI query for that specific category. Going back to LOLI Query, the other way I can incorporate links is through the Include Chemical Groups and Other Links to this Substance checkbox. This is the exact same checkbox that is the Show Links checkbox in LOLI Query. So this time when I click Search, it gives me the ability to check which categories I would like to include in my search. And in this case, it searches all of them at the same time. So for example, I believe the Canadian list had both zinc and zinc compounds listed on it. So this is how your results would display in LOLI Online, a LOLI query, when you incorporate generic categories. So as you can see here, the CAS number sorts out before the RR number. And basically, that's the main tool that you can use in LOLI Online to pull in links into your LOLI query. So to close, I'd like to remind everybody to submit questions that they have regarding information presented in today's webinar to info@chemadvisor.com. Goodbye.